Welcome to the overview of Git workflows. After watching this video, you will be able to describe the steps in a Git workflow and explain the workflow in a real-life scenario. Imagine yourself joining a team developing features for an e-commerce platform. Your task is to add a product recommendation feature. The team uses Git and GitHub for version control and collaboration. How will you collaborate effectively with the team using Git and GitHub? A clear understanding of Git workflows ensures you can use Git effectively for version control and collaboration. The knowledge will help you avoid issues such as code conflicts and unintentionally overwriting a team member's work. The first step is cloning a repository that your team has hosted on GitHub. Cloning creates a copy of the project's code and its complete version history from the remote repository on your local computer. The connection established during cloning enables you to push code changes to the remote repository. You can also pull any changes from the remote repository to your local repository and update it. You can implement the product recommendation feature by updating the project files in your local repository. As a developer, you might try multiple ways to code the feature. You may not want the changes to affect the main branch until the code is ready. A good practice is to create a branch from the main branch and then work on the newly created branch. A branch in Git is an isolated development space based on the main branch where you can make changes, in this case, add a feature, without interfering with the main codebase. After developing the feature, the next step is to select the changed files and move them to a staging area. The staging area is a temporary storage space where you collect the selected files before asking Git to save them in the local repository. You can now commit the files to the newly created branch. Committing files allows you to record the changes and ensure your new feature becomes a part of the branch. When you commit files, including a commit message provides context for you and your team members to understand the change. For example, include a commit message like implemented product recommendation feature. The next step is pushing the changes in the branch to the remote repository. Most often, the code is reviewed by a maintainer, who is responsible for managing the repository before it is merged into the main branch in the remote repository. To merge the branch, you create a pull request. It is a request to the maintainer to review and approve the changes in the branch. After the maintainer merges the pull request, the changes in the branch will be reflected in the main branch. Similarly, if you have maintainer access, you will receive pull requests from your team members, and you will review and approve their requests. You learned about the typical workflow in a software development project. There may be situations where you start a project from scratch and intend to collaborate with others. You can initialize a local project directory as a Git repository so that Git starts tracking changes in your project directory. The next step is to select all project files that you want Git to track, move them to a staging area, and then do an initial commit. After this, you will create a blank repository and link your local Git repository to the remote repository. Then, you will push all project files from your local repository to the remote repository. Other developers can clone the remote repository and follow the regular workflow for updating project files. Let's understand the workflow better with a use case. A company assigns a team of developers, testers, and product manager to a new web application development project. Anne, the lead developer, initializes a Git repository in her working directory. She creates project files, moves them to the staging area, and does the initial commit. She then pushes the commit to a blank remote repository she created. All developers clone the remote repository and start working on it by creating branches. One of the developers, John, is responsible for implementing a user authentication feature. He creates a new branch named User Auth from the main branch. John completes the feature development and commits to the User Auth branch. After thorough testing, he pushes the branch to the remote repository and creates a pull request. Anne reviews the pull request and approves it to merge the changes into the main branch, so other developers can access the changes made by John. Similarly, other developers push commits to the remote repository for the features they worked on. At this stage, feature development is complete and the project is ready to be released. and creates a release branch named Release 1.0 from the main branch in the remote repository. The team pulls the changes from the remote repository so that their local repository is up to date. They perform final testing, bug fixes, and documentation updates in the Release 1.0 branch. After testing, they commit the changes, push the commits to the remote repository, and create a pull request. Anne reviews and merges the changes into the main branch and tags the release as Release 1.0. Let's now recap what you learned. In this video, you learned about the steps in a Git workflow. When you join an existing project, first clone the remote repository. Then, create a branch from the main repository and work on the branch. Add updated files to the staging area and commit to the branch. Push commits to the remote repository. Create a pull request to merge the branch into the main branch, which will be reviewed and approved by the maintainer. When you start a new project, initialize a local Git repository. Then, select the files you want Git to track, move them to a staging area, and perform an initial commit. Create a blank remote repository and establish a link with your local repository. Push the changes so other developers can clone this remote repository and follow the regular workflow for updating project files.